The Academy Award-winning film Anatomy of a Fall has been celebrated for its tense dialogue in hectic court drama, begging questions about its accuracy compared to real French courtrooms. French filmmaker Justine Triet co-wrote and directed the film, for which she received the Oscar for Best Original Screenplay. The movie has been celebrated primarily for its writing and for the excellent performances of Sandra Huller and the Anatomy of a Fall cast. Great movies don't need to be entirely accurate to real life, but a film that embraces a candid tone will naturally raise curiosity regarding realism. Many of the best movies like Anatomy of a Fall are classic legal dramas like Witness for the Prosecution, which have become ingrained in American culture, defining the mechanics of the cinematic court setting. However, the legal system is obviously different in France, giving Triet's film a unique function that many American audiences wouldn't be familiar with. That unfamiliarity serves the movie's drama, creating a sense of chaos and confusion for Anatomy of a Fall's intensity. As for its accuracy to a French trial, there's a significant amount to break down. Everyone talking freely in Anatomy of a Fall's courtroom scenes is realistic. Anatomy of a Fall accurately depicts the looseness of French trials. Anatomy of a Fall. Sandra Huller testifies court. Speaking of the chaos in Anatomy of a Fall, much of the film's potency comes from the disorganized trial conversation. In American legal dramas, it's typical for things to get rowdy and dramatic during a climactic scene or otherwise, with characters raising their voices, lawyers yelling for objections, and judges making threats in order to silence the scene. Those American films have a particularly measured drama, with the conflict remaining mostly static, back and forth, until the big outburst scenes. In Anatomy of a Fall, that drama is constant, which is realistic to France's legal system. In a Vulture interview, Jacqueline Hodgson, a law professor in England, broke down many aspects of the depicted courtroom drama. Anatomy of a Fall may not be based on a real story, but it excels in its authenticity, with very few inaccuracies. One aspect it nails is the open discussion of the court, as opposed to the American legal system, where one person is questioned at a time, and no one is permitted to speak unless directly addressed. There is organization in the film's trial, but it can seem more loose compared to an American trial. Hodgson compares the two, explaining that the accused/defendant gets to speak out more, even to correct someone when they've made a statement about them. Sandra Huller's character frequently does this in Anatomy of a Fall. Hodgson differentiates the system's ideologies, contrasting American and French legal systems as adversarial versus truth-seeking, meaning the American system centers more on winning and losing, while France focuses more on discovering information. In that regard, the judges in France are allowed to speak directly to the defendant, as seen in the movie. French courtrooms really do look like the one in Anatomy of a Fall. Anatomy of a Fall setting and court attire are accurate, with interesting reasonings. The interviewer describes the French courtroom in Anatomy of a Fall as gladiatorial due to its rounded head, questioning the legitimacy of the setting. Unlike the square chambers in American courts, where the defendant and prosecutor sit on opposite sides, both facing the judge, the film's court is rounded. Still, some aspects remain consistent, with the judges being at the head of the room and the accused and prosecutor on opposite sides. Hodgson explains that, like in American courtrooms, the judge is raised to physical and symbolic elevation, presiding over the trial. She explains that the aspect of a lawyer sitting by their client is a North American concept, adding, "In France, the accused will be separated off, and everything goes on around her." She stresses the importance of the rounded architecture and symbolic courtroom composition to the overall process. Aside from the architecture, the legal attire is a notable aspect of the French courtroom in Anatomy of a Fall. Characters are wearing robes that resemble university graduation attire, which Hodgson explains is something they can throw on over their everyday attire to prepare for the court. Compared to the level of style and presentation that hold a prominent place in American courts in order to sway juries, she explains that French lawyers are often dressed very casually under their robes.